In this video, we're going to use our PHP page to get information from the MySQL database, and we're going to present it here as a page so that the user is going to be able to see it. So these lines of code here are really useful, so much so that I often keep them just in a file to the side. A text file is a good idea so that I can use these all the time. Up here, we're defining the query. We'll do that on line 5. Then we're going to run the query. And if it gets a response, if anything matches that query, then it's going to run what's within the yellow braces here. And this loop here is going to repeat every time it finds a row of data. This is a really useful setup for getting information out of a table. It's a little bit simpler if we're doing something like inserting information or deleting a row and so forth. But this is our basic format for what we're using to get information out. So I could just write my query up here, but I'm actually just going to jump over to my MySQL and here, and I'm going to write it within this interface. So I in fact want to bring back star, which means everything from the table called customers. I'm just going to run that and check that it works. Yes, it brought me back a heap of data. What I'm going to do is just limit that a bit so that I've got a slightly smaller set of data to work with. So limit 10. There we go. So there's 10 customers. That's a good thing for me to work with. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy that query. All right. So I pop the query in there where it says query, and that's just defining a variable. And then here we say that result will equal running this thing. This is telling it what to do. This is telling it the database connection to use. Now this might appear in your page. I've actually used an include so that it's as if mine is in there. But you do have to connect to every page that you're using to do this. Every page needs to connect to your database. And then it's running the thing called query, which is just up there. And then it brings back, it says while the row, and the row will equal the result that it gets from that line. So let's just have a very quick look at how this works. I'm going to echo the row, which is this thing that's been created here, row. Now, in the row, I want to know, and I'm using single quotation marks for this, I want to know what the first name is. So I type first, and of course I need to put a semicolon on the end. So let's go back and let's run this page. So I refresh that. Now that actually didn't work, which is interesting. So, there it is. I just needed to hold down Shift and refresh it. So there are all my names. We know that it's getting information back from the database, and that might be all that you need at this point. It might be that you just want back information about one user, in which case you might limit this to 1. So you might know their ID number, for instance, and just bring back 1. And that's fine. You still use basically the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up a variable so that I can show the whole list. So what I'm going to do is create this variable just before I even do the query called list. You could call this anything, by the way. So list equals, and it equals nothing. It is empty. Now, every time I find a piece of information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to list. So list is going to equal list plus, well, list plus what? Okay, list plus, I'm going to actually use the code for a table here. So table row, table data. So that sets that up for me. Then what am I going to add? Well, I'm going to add the first name. So first, fantastic. And then I'm going to, oops, I forgot to put the dot there. Very easy mistake to make. And then I'm going to close off that HTML there to close the row. So close that. Yep. Now, hopefully that will work. Now, I'm actually just going to run this, not because I expect it to show me the table, but just because I want to make sure I haven't got any PHP errors in there. And so far I haven't. So, by the time I'm finished with this, I've got a whole string of HTML that's going to write me different rows for each of the users. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to add the table tags to the start and finish of it. So I'm going to say that list equals, well, at the start of it, it's going to have table. Inside it, it's just going to have itself, so what it used to be. And then at the end of it, we're going to close that table. Oops. There we go, and you'll see that I've made a mistake there, that should have been closed. There we go. So now we have redefined list. And then I'm going to come down here to the body, And what I'm going to do is create a little bit of PHP. I'm going to echo the list, and then I'm going to close that off. So up here, we're creating it line by line. Then when we've finished creating it all, we're going to wrap these tags before and after it just to make it into some workable code. And then down here, we're going to present that workable code. So I refresh. There we go. And if I look in my source code, I will see that they're actually all in a table, and that's all in a big line because that was written by the PHP. Now you might want to jump out on the video here if you feel like you know enough, but I'm going to show you another couple of tricks to make this work a bit better. So up here, you'll see that I've created a TD. So that's a cell of my table. What I'm going to do is create another one, which I'm going to paste after the first TD, and in that, I'm going to put last. So then I'm going to have one cell for their first name and one cell for their last name. Okay, let's give that a refresh. There we go, Marjorie Dwyer, down to Nanine or Nanine. How well? Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy that cell and then I'm going to paste it in. Oh, look, I'm running a bit wide there. I'm just going to go up. This might be different depending on the machine that you're using, but I'm just going to change my word wrap. There we go. So, first, last, and age, I think. Beautiful. Okay, let's go back and have a look. So there you go. I've got quite a nice table there, presenting me all the data that I want. And let's say, you know, just since I'm here, I'm going to actually order by. What am I going to order by? I'm going to order by first, and I'm going to have it ascending. Okay, let's go back and refresh it. And now we have people going from A. Now this has actually hit the whole database, so I'm actually getting a different set of people. So I'm getting the very first letters there, Abbott through to Archibald. And of course, if I wanted to be surnames, then I'd just change that there to last. So not strictly speaking necessary, but a nice little trick for you to know. So there we go. I'll just hit that again. There we go. And there are the people with their A surnames. So hopefully this gives you enough information to get information out of your MySQL database.